All right, thanks for tuning in once again. I'm Ishmael Sistrunk from the St. Louis American and STLamerican.com, here with Palmer Alexander III, our Rams Roundup correspondent. Palmer, another interesting week by the St. Louis Rams. We thought coming after last week that the Rams were going to falter. They're going in against probably the best offensive team in football, arguably the best quarterback in football, and Peyton Manning had not looked good up to that point. Lo and behold, the Rams come out with a 22-7 victory over the Denver Broncos. This means that the Rams have defeated both the Super Bowl champions from last season as well as the Super Bowl runner-up from last season, all from a team who only have 4 wins. Record is 4-6. Palmer, I don't even know what to think at this point. You know, I'm so just out of my mind watching this team, trying to figure out what to expect. Is it a good team? Is it a bad team? How did this happen? We both expected a blowout, to put it mildly. The Rams defense showed heart, held the Broncos to 7 points. How did it happen?
Well, I mean, listen, I wasn't surprised that they won, but one of the things that I elated to, last week was, they're going to have to put pressure on Peyton, get up in his face, make him uncomfortable. He's not a mobile quarterback. I mean, that's what they did. I mean, they just really got after Peyton Manning. I thought Greg Williams called a fantastic game. He was in the zone. You know how a player gets in the zone, making plays on the field or whatnot. And I felt as a coordinator, he was calling all of the right things against Peyton Manning, and the Rams came out ahead. But you know what? This team is so inconsistent, Ishmael. You don't know. You really have no idea what to expect for this team. But what this victory over Denver tells not just the people in St. Louis, but the NFL family as a whole, is that this Ram football team is better than what their record shows. It's just that they lack consistency. They haven't even won 2 games in a row. But this win against Denver is considered what I would call a signature win, because this is a big-time win against another elite team in the NFL as of today.
Okay, so it's still hard to me to explain how did they lose to Minnesota Vikings. They lose to I guess a lot of the other teams that they've lost to are pretty decent, but still the fact that they beat the Denver Broncos, and it wasn't even like this was a last-minute comeback or this was a really, really close game that they somehow got a fluke play, got a fumble, got a key interception. I mean, they led this game for the most part. Greg Zuerlein kicked 5 field goals, 5 for 5 for field goals. They got a touchdown. I just don't understand it for the life of me.
Well, I mean, that's what an inconsistent team would do to you. You just don't know what to expect. But it lets you know that despite the Rams' tough schedule, they have stood up and fought toe-to-toe with everybody, with the exception, like you said, about the Minnesota game where they was completely outplayed. They had the big breakdown against Kansas City. That game was really close. They had the breakdown against the Cardinals a couple of weeks ago. I mean, they was leading all the way up until the 4th quarter. So the Rams have proved they can play against anybody. But what happened against the Broncos was their first game when they played complete football. It was a complete football game played by the St. Louis Rams. I mean, they led from the very beginning all the way into the end of the football contest. They set the tempo for the game. They controlled the line of scrimmage. They did everything right, with the exception of one play. Again, miscommunication in the secondary with Janoris Jenkins and Rodney McLeod. But outside of that, I mean, this team was looking good.
Now, Palmer, tell me this. Going into the half, the Rams are up 13-7. This is something that we've seen before, the Rams being up at halftime on these good teams. Did you think that they would be able to hold on to the victory at that point? Just watching how they were playing, did you think, okay, the Rams have a chance, or were you expecting, all right, well, second half is coming, third quarter, fourth quarter is coming, now's the time that this other shoe is going to drop?
Yeah, absolutely, because the Rams just haven't been consistent in that area, closing teams out when they get up front. So, yeah, I was kind of, I wonder when the other shoe was going to drop, and then the Rams just kept standing up to Peyton Manning. I mean, there were several fourth down conversions where they didn't allow the Broncos to convert, and then they did enough on offense, made sure that they got some points. Like you said, you mentioned earlier about Greg Zuerlein, he making 5 field goals. All 5 was huge, and it allowed the Rams more breathing distance. But as you notice, as the game progressed too, from 13-7 to 16-7, when it went up to 16-7, a 9-point lead, the defense got even more aggressive, and they felt a little bit more comfortable protecting the lead. So, I mean, maybe that's what it was. But as we noticed too, in 2013 and 2012, it took the Rams defense a little while to get warmed up, but when they got warmed up, they was raising hell, every given Sunday they was.
All right, so Shaun Hill made his return as a Rams starter. Austin Davis got a nice long look, but continued to have, especially late game turnovers, just big gaffes type of plays. So Shaun Hill returned as a starter, and we did talk about it a little bit last week that possibly the Rams could get that bump off, hey, we got this new guy to rally around, and that might be a way that they could get a victory. Is that what happened, or did Shaun Hill just play that much better than Austin Davis?
I think it was a combination of both, and then you have to also think about this. I mean, he had the thigh injury that he got in the game against the Minnesota Vikings, and then he come in this week. He's had several weeks of rest, and he was fresh. His arm was fresh. His legs were fresh. The ball was getting out fast. And he made the plays where he really had to make them. So you have to give him credit in that. I mean, he played far beyond better than what I anticipated last week, and he did enough, and he didn't turn the football over, which was even more important.
Yeah, there you go. 20 completions, on 29 attempts, 220 yards, a touchdown, no interception being the key. Also took 3 sacks, which is not that bad. We've seen Austin Davis take a lot of sacks recently, so having only 3, you want to get that number down a little bit. But like you said, there's no turnovers. We didn't have any fumble losses, no interceptions, and that is a big win from that quarterback spot. Also, talking about big wins, Tre Mason, 29 carries, 113 yards rushing against the Denver Broncos defense, which has been pretty decent against the run. I think it's unquestioned now. We've known it. We've been able to tell for a while that Tre Mason is now the guy. He's pretty much getting all the carries. We saw Tavon Austin and Benny Cunningham get a couple of carries, but Tre Mason is the man, and it seems like he's just getting better each week.
And not only just him, but Greg Robinson too. He had the one big miscue when he let DeMarcus Ware run unabated, and then he sacked Shaun Hill from the ball. Luckily, he recovered. But outside of that, they've been getting outside the perimeter running more. I've talked about that too, Ishmael, week after week. I said, when they're going to start getting outside and show some athleticism, and they're doing that more, with Mason. I mean, they're getting outside the perimeter. That's how he runs early in the contest, I think, for like 27 yards. So I think with him, it changed the dynamic of the running attack. They're more willing to not just run inside where they like to run, but they're also willing to test outside the perimeter where they need to start running more.
All right, now last thing on offense I want to talk about, Kenny Britt. 4 receptions, 128 yards, touchdown, 63-yarder, a long reception. We talked about Brian Quick being out and the lack of another receiver to step up. How big was it to see Britt step up, to be a long ball threat, to be a guy who can get that deep ball, who can make receptions?
That was absolutely important for that, and it showed that the Rams could still take the lid off of a defense when need be. I mean, Kenny Britt was big. I mean, he caught another big pass down the field. Was really glad to see him catch that pass on the slant, a play we haven't seen very often over the last few seasons. So he had a big game, and I think this might be that game where we have, you said, that breakout game for Kenny Britt. I mean, it's been a while since the Rams had a receiver go over 100 yards, in the football contest. So that was good for him, and I think it's infectious. But on the flip side of that, I found it funny when they say that Tavon Austin was used as a decoy, and I'm thinking to myself, what has he done this season to make himself a decoy? I mean, stop with the shenanigans, okay? Kenny Britt ran a good play. He caught the ball, got in the end zone. I mean, stop with the damn shenanigans, man. Tavon Austin a decoy. Give me a damn break, okay?
Hey, they're trying to build some confidence any kind of way. He's not getting a whole lot of catches, not getting in that end zone. So you want to give him credit for something, try to help him build that confidence. But like you said, big play by Kenny Britt. We've been waiting to see this, and he's really going to need to be that receiver because nobody else has really proven to have those skills to be able to do that consistently. He's done it in the past. Let's see if he can continue to do it. You talked about the defense a little bit, but break down how did the defense hold the Broncos to 7 points? Because that's still something I don't understand. I got Peyton Manning on my fantasy team. Luckily, I was able to get the win, but I'm expecting Peyton to give me 60, 70 points to throw for 4 or 5 touchdowns. How did the Rams keep them from doing that?
Pressure, high pressure packages, running stunts, sending Laurinaitis more on the blitz. I think that's more of his strong suit. When Laurinaitis blitz, it just adds an extra element to the defense. I mean, the secondary, let me tell you something. That secondary may be young, but they laid some hits this past Sunday that almost made me think the Bounty defense is alive again. There's word gold and blue. I'm telling you. I mean, when McLeod laid that hit on Sanders and then TJ laid that big hit on Caldwell, Wes Welker took a big hit from McLeod early in that contest. Thomas ended up getting knocked out of the game. They were scared to run over the middle of the football field. That changed the complexion of the way guys ran those routes, and that was big. That was pivotal. I think that sent a message not to just the Broncos but to the NFL that the Rams are back and they hit hard. But on the flip side, when you're looking at, going to that contest, and Alec Ogletree, he's had some ups and downs, but I tell you, he is by far the most exciting player on that defense. I nicknamed him Black Ops, Ishmael. It's like he's playing on a football field with camouflage paint, and you thought you were looking at the Ram emblem, but it was him all along. And then he's in the passer lane and intercepts one of Peyton Manning's passes. Just it's fun watching him play. It's like he's on a zip line and he got a machete in his hand, and he's going to take the football away from you. You know what I'm saying? Just exciting. He's exciting to watch, man. I mean, everybody is starting to play better together as a whole. The one guy you're concerned about, Janoris Jenkins, he kind of have his issues at times, but the defense, I mean, they was winning at every single level. And the thing about, they haven't even got Chris Long back. I mean, they haven't had a sack. What they went the first 6 games, they only had like maybe 3 sacks. I think they got 18 sacks on their last 5 games. So all 3 levels, they're winning those battles right now.
All right, Palmer, I don't know, number one, if I've seen you smile this much in a long time. I heard that excitement in your voice in a long time. And also, I hope James Laurinaitis is watching, because it's been quite some time since you gave that man any type of pat on the back. So I'm sure Laurinaitis is at home just having a blast watching that one.
Hey, really, you're not the only one, because I got a few text messages about Laurinaitis, about giving him some love. So I am obligated. So he did good. He did good, man. He played a hell of a game. Red Cup for Laurinaitis.
Red Cup for Laurinaitis. And like you said, Ogletree, he's a prime example of a guy who represents the Rams defense. He's a guy where he can have these great games where he's just all over the field, making interceptions, making big hits, and then he has some games where he gets lost. So he's kind of that face of that defense of being inconsistent. So hopefully he can play a little more consistently, and the defense can as well. But again, the last 4 or 5 weeks, the Rams defense has really started to get more pressure on the quarterback, and they've played as a much better unit. Even in their losses, they played much better than they did early on in the season. But it all comes back down to, can they keep this going? I'm skeptical because it seems like, like you mentioned before, they haven't won back-to-back games, so it seems like whenever they get a win, and it's usually against these good teams, the Super Bowl champions, the Super Bowl runner-ups, we're like, hey, the Rams are back. They got this big victory, and then the next week they come and lay an egg. They got the San Diego Chargers that they're going to San Diego this week. How can they prevent from falling back into that rut?
I think they have to replicate what they did in this past victory. I mean, think about the San Diego Chargers right now. They've been struggling a little bit on offense. I mean, averaging 13 points over the last few football contests. Phillip Rivers, his ribs are bothering him, and that's a key. That's something for the Rams to key on. You expect them to be able to key on that. And, I mean, since they're already struggling on offense, Greg Williams is going to turn up the pressure. And the Rams have a simple formula: run the football, throw when they need to make throws. And that's a simple formula for them to be able to replicate, and they'll be able to win. If they win that football contest, the following week they play the Oakland Raiders, and actually the back end of the schedule, it looks favorable for the Rams. But, again, this would be different if this team was a consistent team that, will be able to knock those games down. But you just don't know. I mean, the Rams could, they could very well win and then lose to Oakland and lose to the Giants and lose to Washington. So, you just don't know.
Absolutely. So how do you think that they will fare against Phillip Rivers? Again, it sounds odd because they're coming off a game where they pretty much shut down, arguably the best quarterback in the game. But Phillip Rivers is another guy where he has a lot of talent. He can throw the ball down the field. Do you think that they'll be able to shut him down as well, or do you think San Diego will be able to look at the tape, figure out what the Rams are doing, and do a little bit better job of scoring some points?
I think the San Diego Chargers have some issues, too, up front on the offensive line as well. So I expect the Rams to just continue to attack and then, play the flats, as you saw when Tremaine Johnson got that interception against Peyton Manning, because those are those little areas, those little blind areas where sometimes those errant passes end up at. So I expect to see the Rams continue to do that. I mean, you think about it, that was the first, like I said, when I mentioned about Robert Quinn when he ran that stunt, I mean, those are those types of things that Greg Williams wasn't doing before early in the season. Now he's doing it now. And then Aaron Donald, I mean, my goodness, it just seems like he's in the backfield on every single play, being disruptive. And if they do that, if they keep the same game plan, keep the throws under that 30 mark, they got a chance of winning. However, since they have shown that they cannot be consistent, there's no way I could be able to pick them this week against San Diego.
Really, with all that smiling, with all that hope in your voice, I just thought surely Palmer's going to pick the Rams, probably in some type of a blowout victory. But you're saying you're not doing it. You're not going for the fool's gold.
No, I'm not. But notice how I strategically worded what I had to say. So, I want them to win, but realistically, you can't trust them to do something to replicate, the positive things that they were able to do. I mean, think about it, they had two penalties. 2 penalties for 20 yards. When was the last time they did that? But can they do it 2 games in a row? I don't think they can do it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It'll be an interesting game. The Chargers are 6-4. Like you said, they have some vulnerabilities. They just got Ryan Matthews back on their running game to anchor their running game, which he'll help them out. But their defense has shown that you can get to them at times. They lost 3 games in a row, I believe, at one point before they bounced back last week. But they're a vulnerable team. But again, I don't trust the Rams, especially away from home, going out there to San Diego. It's a winnable game for them, but they've just been so up and down that I can't pick them. I'm only going to pick the Rams against the top teams in the NFL from now on. If you got 1 loss or 2 losses, maybe I'm going to pick the Rams. They lost to KC, but anybody else, I just can't pick them not until I see them win back-to-back games. If I can see them string together 2 or 3 games in a row, then maybe I'll be comfortable picking them. But even though I think they can win this game, like I said, I just don't have the confidence. And we'll see if Shaun Hill plays as well as he did with no turnovers. I mean, think about this for a second. No turnovers by the quarterback, only 2 penalties by the defense. Like you said, that just doesn't happen to the St. Louis Rams. So this might have just been a rare game where everything worked in their favor.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, you want to be positive, and they had a lot of positive things to build on. Tre Mason ran over for 100 yards. They did a good job of controlling the clock, and they kept the Broncos off the field for the most part. I think the Rams held the ball for almost 35 minutes, which is something that they haven't done in a long time. So, and listen, the offensive line did a great job. I mean, they did give up 3 sacks, but they did give Shaun Hill time to make plays, and they just have to show the ability to replicate that. But if they do pull off the win against San Diego, I think you can give them a legitimate shot at possibly maybe even running the table. Because I think that game against the Cardinals on the 11th is going to be a really big game too. And I think they can beat the Cardinals. I just think that they dropped the ball a little bit in the 4th quarter. I know they can't wait to get a hold of the Cardinals again. So that's going to be the game that you circle on your calendar, December 11th. Because if they take care of business this week, you get Oakland, you got the Cardinals, right around the corner. That's going to be really interesting to watch.
Now, Palmer, I know that you usually say crazy things, especially after a Rams win, which is why I was surprised that you picked against them. I thought we were clear of the Palmer crazy talk train. I thought we dodged by that. So I was expecting, I said, as you start talking, I said, Palmer's probably going to say the P word. He's probably going to use the P word here. I just saw it coming, but you didn't even do that. You went past that. You said, this team that you just said is inconsistent. You can't count on them. If they win this game, they can run the table? Yeah, what do you have in that cup, Palmer? That's what I want to know. You're taking another sip.
I'm just saying the table's being set, right? I mean, you don't give them a 0 chance. I want to give them a chance. I try not to, let my emotions, lead me. As I do get a little upset. People know I'm passionate about my Rams. I do expect them to have at least a table set like that. I mean, listen. I mean, it's been like that ever since they've come to St. Louis in 2012. And remember, he had that stretch of 2012. He reeled off 3 straight wins, and they was really within a game of, I think, of making the playoffs. So they've kind of teased with that over the last couple of years, and it looks like they're about to do it again, because if they do win, then they're not mathematically eliminated. But I'm not going down that hole again, my friend. I'm staying the hell away from that one. I'm staying away from that P word. I'm telling you.
All right, but they run the table. You're not gonna say the P word, but you're gonna say they'll run the table if they get this. Interesting. Like I said, I think you had a little too much juice in that red cup over there, but it is what it is, and you do have to give the the Rams their dues, their credit, because they put together a great game against the Denver Broncos. So we have to applaud that. We have to celebrate that and say, hey, you did a good job. But we need to see it on a more consistent basis. So we'll see. This game, I think, it will tell a lot because, as you mentioned, they do have a little bit softer schedule on the back end. So it's possible that they can get some momentum going. I don't think there's any way they run the table, but I think they could rattle off a couple of good wins in a row if they continue to show this improvement. But as we've seen that with all the inconsistency, I can't rely on that yet. If I'm a betting man, I'm not betting on that yet.
No, and listen, I think I may have picked the Rams 3 times, and they've only won one of those games. And I figured, it's time for me to start acting like I got some damn sense. Okay, the team is what it is. They're inconsistent. So we got to take it, week by week. But like I say, crazy things that happen as I thought about it. I'm like, well, I don't know about the run the table anymore. I guess best case scenario 9-7. I mean, that's the best case scenario. But if it ends at 7-9, it will be a little bit of a disappointment, Ishmael, only for the simple fact that we knew what the schedule was like. We watched how they played against some of the best teams in the league, and then you're still struggling to get to 500. And at some point, it's time to get to that next level. So I guess that's another reason why my enthusiasm is tempered, because we've seen this same game before. It's time for them just to take that next step, and that next step is just showing that they can be able to win back-to-back games, and then maybe things can get a little bit better after that.
There you go, and that's all I'm saying. Let's see back-to-back victories before we get crazy and start predicting, those type of runs. But like I said, it'll be interesting to see them play the Chargers. I never imagined they would beat the Broncos, at least not like they did. So it was good to see that, and it gives the fans something to be excited about. But let's see it happen again. Palmer, what's your score? We picked, but we didn't give scores here.
I got Chargers winning 23-19.
All right, I think the score is going to be a lot less. The Rams defense is playing better. The Chargers don't put up a whole lot of points. They put up a little more than the Rams do. But I'm going to say 17-13 for the Chargers. But it almost is to the point now with the Rams. I just saw something earlier this week about a coin flipping app being integrated into Android. I'm going to download that app, and I'm just going to start flipping a coin for my picks because there's really no way that I can get any worse right now. A few times I picked the Rams to win, they lost, and when I pick them to lose, and they pull out a victory. So with them, that's what it is. Flip a coin and see. Hopefully the coin will land on the right side this week, and they'll be able to come out with a victory.
Well, the Rams, I tell you, they have been some pool busters. And I always, remind people, I said, this might be that week, when they, like I say, listen, all those wins, Seattle, San Francisco, and now Denver. Those three wins, I know just totally disrupted somebody's football pool. But again, it just goes to show you how much talent they really have. What will they be if they harness all of that and then be able to, put something cohesive on that football field on a consistent basis?
All right. Well, with that, Palmer, that's all I have, unless you have anything to add. I think we can go ahead and sign off from this week's Rams Roundup. I was waiting to the end because I really wanted to see if it was going to happen. We already talked about some little Palmer-isms already, but I didn't. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't hear criticism of Schottenheimer. I think that's a first since he's been here in St. Louis at all. You didn't give Schottenheimer the business. So you showed Laurinaitis some love. Didn't show hatred towards Schottenheimer. I think Palmer's turning over a new leaf. We got a new, friendlier Palmer Alexander, folks.
Well, not really, because my cup is empty.
All right. Well, on that note, we will see you guys next week. Uh, let us know what you think. Subscribe to the video here on YouTube channel. But let us know, what do you think about the games, and we'll incorporate some of that into the future shows. So once again, I'm Ishmael Sistrunk with the St. Louis American and STLAmerican.com, here with Palmer Alexander III, and this is this week's Rams Roundup. See you.